Have you ever defended somebody who is guilty before?
Yeah, like clearly guilty.
There's that tension within you. You have to put on the professional hat and just advise objectively. I almost got an assignment to serve court papers on a high-profile member of Singapore society. Those that leave the profession usually do better. So that was the only time that I teared in court when the verdict was announced.
Good morning, Your Honour. My name is Daryl,
My name's Estelle, and welcome back to another episode of Thriving as.
a lawyer. Estelle, what do you think about when somebody tells you they work as a lawyer?
Wow, confirm have a lot of money, have to work very hard, so they OT a lot, and confirm cannot win an argument against them.
So today is a very serious episode because we are going to be diving into law as a career. Is being a lawyer really a glamorous job? Is it true that young lawyers OT so much until they never see the light of day? To find out, with us today we have Yi Yang, who is Managing Director of Covenant Chambers. Welcome.
Welcome.
So Yi Yang, can you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Yi Yang, and I've been working as a lawyer for 15 years. I'm a disputes lawyer, so I go to court almost on a daily basis. And I specialize in commercial disputes as well as property disputes.
Actually, since you're here, right, there are some things you can ask you, some misconceptions, we want to debunk about the different careers. So please tell us if this is true or false, okay?
Sure.
So a lawyer's main job is arguing cases in the courtroom.
Yes, to some extent, there are generally two different kinds of lawyers.
Okay.
So it's true for one type of lawyers, which are called disputes lawyers, which I'm part of this group.
Yes.
And we go to court when parties get into disputes. We help them resolve. And but there's another group of lawyers that they're called corporate lawyers,
Right.
or transactional lawyers. So they are the ones that bring deals together. They are the ones that draft sale and purchase agreements. They are the ones that deal with regulatory issues that arise from time to time. So these are the two main groups that we see.
Wow. At first, when you say they don't go to court, I thought maybe more chill. But when you say no, they have to draft out all the other agreements.
Yeah.
It does not sound chill at all.
They don't work. They don't work as hard. No, I think they work as hard. They work as hard as the disputes lawyers. Yeah.
A different kind of challenge. Okay, they have a different kind of challenge.
So it's more like an office job for them.
It's pretty dynamic as well because apart from doing the documents, they attend client meetings, they attend negotiations with the lawyers representing the counterparty.
I see.
Yeah, but it's a more collaborative environment. Like board games.
Yes,
they are the collaborative kind, and they are the
the ones
tear you down kind.
tear you down kind. Yeah.
So when you go to court, right, I'm wondering, have you ever defended somebody who is guilty before?
Yeah, like clearly guilty.
Yeah, I think that's something that I get very often, right, from people. In real life, usually when somebody tells us that they've actually committed, right, the crime or done something wrong, our first, I would say, port of call would be to tell them to plead guilty and to ask for a leniency from the courts. Yeah,
Okay.
a more lenient sentence. Yeah. And that simplifies matters a lot, right? And in the long term, it is to their interests, right? Because you can really get a huge discount on your sentence if you plead guilty early. So that's what I've done with all my clients. Yeah.
But some clients, they go into the matter feeling that they're not guilty.
Yes.
Is it your job to convince them, no, actually you are indeed guilty, so can you please plead guilty,
Yeah, that happens quite a fair bit. Because they may be of the view that whatever they have done is not caught under that section of law. There could be a misunderstanding of how the law applies, right? So that happens from time to time as well. Yeah,
I see.
yeah.
Okay.
How does it feel when you are defending somebody who is guilty? Like you know that person is guilty, but then he tell you that he's not guilty, and he wants you to defend. Do you feel like conflicted?
Yeah, I don't do a lot of criminal law, but it happens when there's that tension within you, right? Where maybe people sometimes tend to justify their actions. And so I guess we have to put on the professional hat and just advise objectively where they stand. Is it on the right side or the wrong side of the law? And advise them of the risks that if they do not plead guilty, then
Yeah.
what could happen next,
Yeah.
and whether they are prepared to face the more severe consequences. I think that's what we do. Yeah.
Wow.
What is the least glamorous thing you've ever had to do?
Yeah.
Or like the weirdest thing a client has ever requested you to do?
Yeah. In your experience.
I almost got an assignment by another law firm from another country to serve court papers on a high-profile member of Singapore society.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and that law firm wanted me as a lawyer to serve documents personally.
Okay.
Just to explain that we lawyers usually don't serve personally.
Yeah.
We engage court process servers to do that. And but they wanted me to do it personally. So so when I got that assignment, I was like, I wanted to reject that job. So I quoted higher for
If I'm
the
gonna go
fees.
down.
Yeah. So it went away. Yeah.
Is it like in the shows where if you don't receive the papers is like you are summoned to court, and then if you don't receive it, you don't have to go to court?
There is a certain way where you have to kind of deposit the papers in the person's hands.
You've been served.
Yes.
It's
yes,
just not his job.
To give, to constitute adequate notice to the litigant.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so that thankfully we have court process servers that are very well trained in this area. Yeah.
Just now you mentioned you guys, okay, so like you worked 15 years, and then I have this conception that I mentioned that lawyers work a lot, like they OT a lot. So like there's actually been a number of news reports in recent years saying that young junior lawyers, they're always being overworked and they intend to leave the industry actually.
Yeah.
So based off this, we got this right because there was a survey conducted amongst 234 lawyers who were called to the bar last year.
Yes.
And 2/3 of them said they were likely to move out of the law industry in the next 5 years.
Right.
Yeah, so is all this that they're saying, like being overworked, they're just way too tired, they want to leave, right? Is it like a real problem? It's
Yes.
something you feel it's a real problem.
I think it's widely accepted in the industry that that's a real problem in the industry. And the judges are still, and also I think the government is scratching their heads how to solve this on an industry-wide level. For me personally, I started life as a lawyer in the big firms,
Yeah.
in one of the big four. Yeah, and paid my dues, learned everything that I could learn. And I made that transition to a smaller setup in my 4th year of practice. And then after another 4 more years, I founded Covenant Chambers. I wanted to help to solve the problem of the attrition rate because many lawyers are leaving the industry. So we do have an alternative practice model where we believe in more sustainable lawyering.
Oh.
Yeah, sustainable lawyering. We try not to allow our juniors to burn themselves out,
Yeah.
right, early in their career. We provide more mentorship, guidance, training along the way, and to make sure that they feel that we are investing in them.
Wow.
So I think we have had some degree of success
Oh,
to
that's
be
good.
able to retain our juniors across the years. So I'm fortunate to have built a good team, moving forward.
So for those who are not aware, right, what are the big 4 law firms?
They are law firms in Singapore that have at least, I would say, more than 250 lawyers.
250?
Yeah, so they are Allen and Gladhill, Drew and Napier, Raja and Tan, and lastly Wong Partnership. Yeah.
So is it different working for a big law firm, a big four firm, versus working for a smaller law firm?
Yes, I think in a big four setup, there'll be a lot more robust support system. So for example, tech support. So when I moved to a smallish setup, the first day I had a laptop issue,
Oof.
and my first instinct was to call tech 8198.
Oh my
And I realized that I'm no longer in the big four.
You are your own tech
Yeah,
support.
exactly. So I got to resolve the issue myself. So that's one very, very big difference. At the same time, I think in a smallish setup, you do not get perhaps the kind of international exposure or the international profile of clients. Yeah. So the exposure is kind of limited to very much domestic disputes. But at the same time, perhaps less complex matters as well.
Okay.
Right, so you do have a better life generally, right? So when I was in the Big Four, I used to go home at about at least 9, 10 p.m. Yeah, or even past midnight.
Then what time do you start?
Yeah.
I start at 9. Yeah,
Damn.
yeah.
So you really don't see the light of day.
Oh yeah. So when I moved to the smaller setup, right? So the first day I was driving home and I saw the sunset. I'm like, oh man, like how beautiful is that?
It sounds so
I've never
sad.
seen the sunset in years.
So it's really true, lah.
Yeah.
Lawyers work
Yeah.
very long hours.
I think that's generally true. Yeah. We try to be an exception where we are. But then again, in your first 3 to 4 years, even 5 years of practice, I think it's important to put in that amount of hours. Yeah.
Oh,
To learn everything that you need to, because then you can really acquire the skills that can make you excel as a lawyer.
So you put in the hard work now, and then
You can
reap the
breathe a bit
rewards.
easier. Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's still kind of important to, I mean, although it's unfortunate that there is OT, it's just in the nature of the job. Like if you need to earn those skills and experience, you have to go through that.
The crucible.
Yeah, so it's like even though you guys really want to go above and beyond to try to change that at some extent, do you feel like they have to go through this?
I think beyond a certain number of hours, people are bound to crack, right?
Yeah.
So I think we have to balance that with what is sustainable, what is reasonable, and I think that's where I think frequent breaks, frequent holidays are important, right? Maybe we allow our young lawyers to take a break every 2 to 3 months. We have that amount of leave days that people can take a breather, and we have covering lawyers to, cover for them while they are away. So I think building in a kind of that kind of system would help. Yeah.
When you were a young hustling lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
when was the latest you ever left the office?
I have not done an all-nighter, but I know that many of my colleagues have done, and not just one, but especially when you are assisting in a trial, that could go on for days, right? So for me personally, just past midnight, I think. Yeah, I was rather fortunate to have a very, very good and understanding boss in my earlier years. Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking maybe because you're more efficient, like you know how to get your stuff done, so you don't have to
No.
pull an all-nighter.
I guess there are a lot of smart people in the profession, but despite being brilliant, right, the necessity of the job actually, you have to put in the hours, and there is that expectation as well. Yeah.
So maybe going back to law as a career, right? Would you say that being a lawyer today is harder than it used to be in the past? Because I do remember seeing in the news, like quite many years back, there were a lot of features about lawyers who quit their jobs to open a cafe, to open a bakery. So it does seem like this, like lawyers' attrition rate isn't a new issue. Yeah.
Yeah, those that leave the profession usually do better. So,
Oh, could it be
and,
like
uh,
a generational thing? Like we all strawberry generation, we cannot tahan the harshness of.
Yeah, or is it like really harder today as a
Yeah.
as a young lawyer?
I think perhaps people who go into law school are perhaps gifted in many ways in the first place, right? So I think they do have other options. They are usually very creative. So that's why, you know, going to F&B, some go into business, and some just go to pursue their own interests, right? Is it tougher? I think the pace of society has accelerated across the years. Maybe rewind 20 years ago, there's no such thing as emails.
Oh,
There's no
yeah.
such thing as WhatsApp,
Yes,
right?
yes.
After office hours, no one bugs you.
Because they
People
can't.
people could only contact you, one, through the fax machine,
Wow.
right? And two, calling you at the office, right? So I guess with a globalized and modernized society, the pace of practice has also picked up. So perhaps that's why it's challenging, right? But the good thing is that young lawyers have very good tech skills
Oh.
that can actually it's a big advantage
Oh.
over the older ones, you know, the dinosaurs, yeah, who are less equipped, right, to deal with, you know, nowadays, even if we go for hearings, it's done remotely. A lot of hearings are done remotely. So you can sit at your office comfortably, you know, with a screen and converse with the judge
Wow.
through the screen.
Wait, so the ones who have been practicing for years and years and years, right? This would be like a complete culture shock for
Yeah.
them now, doing an
It
online.
will be like a fish out of water. Yeah.
Oh.
Especially those with not as good, you know, tech skills.
Yeah.
Like because you got to share screen, you got to kind of drag the documents out over soft copy.
Wow.
You know, you got to perhaps troubleshoot tech issues that arise from time to time. So young lawyers are much better equipped to deal with such situations.
From what I see is like you guys have to deal with it okay, you're basically lawyer mode every day almost. How do you switch it off when it comes to family matter, when you're facing your wife, like your spouse? Are you able to turn it off? Are there some days where you're like, oh yeah, you catch yourself?
Yeah, I think it's there's always this temptation to bring work home, whether physically or kind of like still in that work frame when I go home. So inevitably there'll be times where, you know, I'm kind of spaced out and thinking about the cases even at home. I try to avoid that, but I think it's inevitable because when you are wrestling with certain issues,
Yeah.
you tend to be engaged in that, right? 24/7.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, my wife has reminded me way too often to switch off.
To be present.
To be present, yes.
How about like times when you guys are getting into a small tiff? Have you ever been like a bit, like your mind's like, but okay, never mind, better not say. But
Yeah, if you lawyer means you won't lose any arguments or quarrels, right?
yeah, you know how to actually work your way around this.
Yeah, it's rather strange, but actually my wife wins the argument at home most of the time.
Based off facts
So-
or just for the sake of peace?
I think because, you know, we I think, you know, because you get into that kind of stuff so much at work that you don't really want to engage in a quarrel at home. Yeah. So
You willingly just like, okay, you know, if
Yeah.
that's the case, let's, whatever, I agree.
I
Okay.
rest my case.
Leave
I rest my case. I
rest
respect
my
whatever you're saying, sure.
leave the disputes in the courtroom.
Yeah.
At home is all mediation.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I noticed that your answers are always very well thought out. You speak in a very composed manner.
Yeah.
Is this a quirk of the job? Or are there things that lawyers do outside of work that you can, spot from afar? Oh, I know this guy is a lawyer.
Yeah.
I think maybe one of the occupational hazards of lawyers is that we tend to ask many, many questions. And we tend to try to get to the fine print. And we perhaps are less trusting than the average person. So these are occupational hazards. Because we have, especially disputes lawyers, we get into situations where things have gone south, right? For people, they get into disputes because things are not clearly spelled out, right? So we tend to try to clarify. We tend to try to do our due diligence, right? Yeah, and but at the same time, I think personally, I'm a very relational person. So I think there's a certain element of trust that's needed, right, to build relationships, whether in business, personally, socially. So I don't tend to ask that many questions. With people that even the vendors, the contractors that I engage, I usually just sign without looking at what's stated. Yeah.
Because you read too many
Yeah, I
contracts
think
in your day-to-day
I think
job.
it's to do with job fatigue.
Yeah.
For me personally, I don't read the fine print at all. So like people come and tell me, hey, you sign on this and it says this.
Yeah.
I get a shock. Oh dear.
So this
I
is
need a lawyer.
this is
Yeah.
classic example of do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
But do your friends ever like send you contracts and ask you, hey, help me
Yeah,
read this
see.
and see whether I'm getting scammed?
Yeah, but usually it's a bit too late because they would have already signed, right? Yeah.
Yeah, why do they do that? Like, already signed, but I said, hey, you help me read first. I was like, bro, what can I do for you right now? You already agreed to this.
Yeah. Perhaps they might be thinking that we might have ways to help him get out of situations, right? And perhaps renegotiate or something.
Yeah.
But if you do ever get into trouble, right? Like if you sign a contract with a vendor, then the vendor cheat you and you want to sue the person, can you like represent
Yeah.
yourself in
Yeah.
court?
Yes, technically yes.
Would you want to?
Not as a lawyer, but as a litigant in person.
Ah. So how does it work?
So you can go in your personal capacity and defend yourself, or sue in your own personal capacity. Yeah.
Is it common? Would you do that?
Very rare, actually.
Rare.
Actually, the last thing that lawyers want to do is to get into a dispute themselves.
Yeah, for sure. Because there's so much on the line for you.
Yeah.
You'll lose everything. Like, let's say, yeah.
Or you save money,
credibility.
you represent yourself.
Mm.
You don't need to hire somebody else.
Yeah, but then there's that opportunity cost. That time could have been
Yeah.
spent hustling, chasing deals, making money. But now you have to be engaged in a dispute yourself. So that's the last thing that we want to get into.
Have you seen like clients, like because I watch shows like, like Dead Money, those murderers, but I know it's different, it's like criminals, but some of them, wow, they like have that belief that they can represent themselves, that kind of thing. And then like, have you met clients, not murderers or whatever, but clients who like, oh yeah, if you don't do that, I represent myself. Then you like, bro, are you serious? Like for now, like.
I must say that I've come across litigants in person that would do very well as lawyers, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, that have really impressed me personally. So that comes as a surprise. Although they are not legally trained, but the way they think, the way they argue, they can really, make a living out of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
So perhaps it's not as tough as we think it is.
No. You can have to give yourself credit because you still have to go through you have to pass an exam, like a really prestigious exam to get to where you are.
And that exam is getting harder and harder. It used to be much easier during my time, but the standards and the bar have been raised. Yeah.
But how do you tell that somebody has like the traits of a good lawyer? Like the litigant in person example you were talking about.
One of the traits necessary is that guy needs to be able to be a good storyteller, right? So that guy has to kind of arrange a narrative and an account that would be very persuasive, right? To tell the court to rule in his favor. So that I would say is a very necessary trait, that of storytelling. Of course, we cannot concoct, we cannot manufacture facts that are not there. But given a set of facts, we have to weave a very cogent, a very believable narrative and account, right? Very compelling account, right? To appeal to the judge. Yeah. So, yeah.
And then you said that the bar exam is probably harder now than it used to be. I also read in the news that starting from this year, right, trainee lawyers, they have to go through 12 months of practice instead of 6 months previously
Yeah.
before they become a full-fledged
Yes.
lawyer, right?
Yes. It has been extended, the period of training.
Why was it extended?
I think there was a research and study that was commissioned. I think perhaps the stakeholders think that 6 months is a bit too short, because in other jurisdictions it goes as long as 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I think young lawyers need that extended time to really perhaps figure out and get exposed to what lawyers do, in order to perhaps decide which area they want to focus on. So the extended period of training will definitely be helpful. Yeah.
But if they go through a longer training period, right, does that mean they won't be getting as much salary for a longer period of time?
So the good news is that most law firms in Singapore have actually increased their training salary, or the stipend that they provide for their trainees, to make up for that gap. Yeah.
Okay.
So so all in all, I think it's still pretty much comparable with as compared to the situation where it's a 6 months training. Yeah. So the profession has, I think, done their best to cater for these needs. Yeah.
But the problem is, and I'm sure you know this as a managing director of your own firm, right? The problem is, if you are a practicing lawyer, you cannot bill the client for the work that the trainee has done. Is that right?
Actually, for trainees, there is no strict prohibition. Yeah.
Okay.
The if I understand it correctly, even the study by the committee points to the fact that you can actually bill for trainee work, but of course at a reasonable rate compared to, definitely not at the same rate as a full-fledged lawyer.
Okay.
So you can actually bill for, yeah. Yeah. I stand corrected if that's not the case.
Disclaimers.
Yes.
Yeah, earlier you were talking about how as a young lawyer you have to work very long hours, OT a lot, right? Does it
Yeah.
get better as you become more senior?
So this is what my observation is. It really depends. So when I was in the Big Four, I saw my boss stay back even later than I did. So I had to ask myself, is this the kind of life that I want, 15, 20 years later, so I decided to shift my priorities. Family comes first.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so I decided to work myself out of the Big Four environment, and I plugged myself into the boutiques space to have more work-life balance. So I would say that I think it's possible. It's possible to have a good, to have a good balance between work and other arenas of your life. Yeah, and maybe I would encourage young people to also have that like that thought as it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. Yeah. I think all we need is a good team, right, to cover for one another, and good and understanding bosses.
Do you think it's better for young lawyers to start in a big firm or in a small firm?
Yeah. So nowadays, a lot of lawyers
Yeah.
that were previously in big firms,
Yeah.
there's a recent trend that they have also come out of the big firm environment to start on their own.
Oh, so quick. It's
Yeah,
like they don't
yeah,
even
and these are
transition.
really senior and very established lawyers.
Oh.
So perhaps the question is not which firm, but which mentor or which lawyer are you learning from,
Okay,
right?
okay.
And these boutique sets actually offer very, very competitive pay package as well. So whereas in a big firm, your life can be very, very different, right? Depending on who your boss is as well. So again, we can't generalize too much. Yeah, that I've seen people in the big firms having good work-life balance as well, right? So very understanding bosses. Yeah.
So
Because,
anyway, in your line of work, right? What's the furthest you've ever gone for a client?
oh yeah.
So I've acted for someone who tragically lost her husband as he collapsed in his office one day. Yeah, and so due to a brain aneurysm, yeah, it's an outpouching of the blood vessel, and so he died of a stroke essentially.
Oh no.
So this widow, she was carrying their second baby at the time of his demise, and she also had an 11-year-old. It was a workman compensation issue.
Okay.
The insurers didn't want to pay because their argument was that it's a random event, right? So it's not linked to the kind of work that he was doing. And the rupture of the aneurysm could happen at any point of time. So what was at stake was about $200,000 that was essential for her livelihood. So I took on that case pretty much pro bono, and we went to the labor courts to fight for that compensation. So so the other side had all the expert witnesses, the neurosurgeons, right? I I didn't have a neurosurgeon as my witness, but I actually asked the pathologist who did the autopsy,
Oh.
yeah, to be my witness. And the day before the trial, she handed me an article saying that there's actually a correlation between a blood pressure spike, right, and the rupture of aneurysms. So we could prove that, whatever the man suffered was actually work related.
Oh.
So, cut a long story short, we actually got that compensation for her. And I think that was the only time that I teared in court when the verdict was announced.
Yeah, oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
knowing that, I managed to secure the future for this lady.
And her child, essentially, because yeah, I think having to deal with it, especially as a mom again for a newborn almost,
Yeah.
it's so important. But that's amazing.
So, these are the stories that I think I would tell my children one day about. Yeah.
Okay.
So before we wrap up, could you maybe share a word of advice to people who are thinking or are planning to become lawyers?
I think be prepared to learn and be like a sponge, curious, um, be in for the challenge. I think it will be a rigorous training. By the same time, I think people don't tell you that, but I think enjoy the process because I think every learning, every experience, even though sometimes it could be very strong or very intense, right? Very punishing, but I think it kind of adds to your character. Being able just to go through it. It's a bit like army, right? I think it kind of does something inside. Yeah. And I think also don't lose that dose of idealism that we have. I think that's what I appreciate about young people that they have a keen sense of justice. They want to make a difference in the world. And I think if they are exploring a career in law, it's definitely a profession that believes in that as well. So that's what I will leave with the young people. Yeah.
And with that, court adjourned. We've come to the end of today's episode. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you in the next episode. Young need to bang the table to end the episode.
No lah. Wait, he'll be a judge someday, but he's off duty today. Maybe. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.